good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is important that one has got to keep on reminding these MDC, Triple C leaders and their supporters what we are talking about here. Let's be very clear. The people of Zimbabwe have risked livelihoods, limbs, and even lives to elect MDC, Triple C leaders into positions of power and authority on the understanding that once in that position, they'll bring about the democratic changes the nation is dying for. The democratic changes to stop Zanu PF becoming a dictator, ending this dictatorship. That is the primary purpose. The people of Zimbabwe have risked everything this last 25 years. So we must have a clear idea of what is it we want the opposition to do. And they should also have a clear idea what is it they were elected to do. And in their case, when they launched their party in 1999, Tsvangirai and company said their party will be called a movement for democratic change. They were answering to the nation's cry for democratic change. And they were going to be the movement to bring about that democratic change. And so the question must be asked now, 25 years down the line, what democratic changes have you brought? It is most nauseating when instead of answering that question, they keep telling us how much we are suffering under the continued Zanu PF dictatorship. If the democratic changes that you promised were delivered, Zanu PF would no longer be ruining our lives. Mnangagwa rigged the 2023 elections and got away with it because MDC, Triple C leaders sold out on implementing the democratic changes to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. And he got away with it because MDC leaders conned the people to participate in these flawed election processes, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating, we'll be giving Zanu PF legitimacy. And so it beggars belief when the same people, all they want to do now is remind us how miserable we are under this Zanu PF dictatorship. Here is a video clip of Tsvangirai that has been taking the rounds.
In 2008, vakaramba kupa power muchiti ndimi munozvigona zvinomakakuitei mega apo eri hapana chionai zvamati. Look at the mess you have created for yourself, your children, and everyone around us. Yes. We are all losers. Ezvomba mako imomo mune mwana ane degree asina basa. Ndikatomboziva kuti kuna vamwe vana vane zita rakuti vachaenda kupension vasati vambosenza. Akatombozivi kuti kunozi kunosenzwa.
The important question here is, during the GNU, whose primary purpose was to implement the democratic change? It was the golden opportunity to implement those democratic changes. How many changes did MDC, Morgan Tsvangirai, and his friends implement? Not even a token. Mugabe bribed them with the trappings of high office, the E-class Mercedes-Benz for all the MDC deputy ministers, the two deputy prime ministers, and Prime Minister Tsvangirai himself. And then came the generous salaries and allowances. For Tsvangirai himself, he got the US $4 million mansion in Highlands. They were so busy enjoying the trappings of high office, they forgot about the reforms. Not even SADC leaders could get them to implement any reforms. Credit where credit is due. The likes of Lindiwe Zulu, who was appointed minister from South Africa, supervising on behalf of SADC, the GNU, pressured Morgan Tsvangirai on many occasions to implement reforms. And instead of them paying attention to what she's saying, they would go and tell Zanu PF that Lindiwe is putting them under pressure to implement reforms. And here's the reason why on one occasion, Mugabe used the undiplomatic language of even calling Lindiwe Zulu a street woman and telling Jacob Zuma to tell his street woman to stay out of Zimbabwean affairs. We cannot deny that the golden opportunity to implement reform was wasted. And we cannot pretend we don't know who wasted it. Morgan Tsvangirai and company. It is that failure that is at the heart of our ongoing problems right now. Because if we had appreciated that MDC leaders had sold out, we would have gone to plan B. If MDC leaders have failed to implement the democratic changes we need to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections, well, let's find other alternative opposition leaders who will implement those reforms. Because those reforms are still necessary. Zimbabwe is not going to move out of this political mess until we implement the democratic reforms. If Chamisa and company cannot do it, and clearly they failed to do it, because they failed to implement even one reform when they had the golden opportunity to do so, it is naive to think they can do it now when Zanu PF holds all the trump cards. Still, nonetheless, we should be smart enough to realize that Chamisa and company are no longer representing the people's interest. And the fact that Chamisa and company continue to con us into participating in flawed elections to perpetuate the dictatorship beggars belief. The people of Zimbabwe have the golden opportunity. They have another chance to end the Zanu PF dictatorship in 2028. What do they have to do? They have to stop participating in a flawed process. SADC and the AU election observers condemned the 2023 elections as flawed and illegal. And they stated what we all could see is the problem. We cannot keep on participating and pretending that we didn't know what was going on. We knew what was going on, and it was spelled out for us. We really need to wake up to that reality and realize that at the present moment, as much as we cannot stop Zanu PF going ahead with the elections in 2028, as much as we cannot stop Chamisa and company participating, because they know that by participating, they'll get a share of the spoils of power. What we can do is make sure that we, the ordinary people, do not participate. Because if SADC can see for themselves that the people themselves are no longer participating in these flawed elections, I believe that in 2023, SADC and the AU would have denied Zanu PF political legitimacy. But as long as people participate in their millions, SADC and the AU will do nothing. So I repeat, the people of Zimbabwe have got to wake up to the political reality that MDC CCC leaders will never bring about the democratic changes that they promised. And it is nauseating that the same individuals, all they do day in, day out, is remind us how miserable we are under the Zanu PF dictatorship. We did not risk all to elect Chamisa and company to tell us how much we are suffering under Zanu PF. We elected them to implement the democratic changes to end the Zanu PF dictatorship. They failed to do that. And now it is incumbent on us, the people, to find other opposition leaders who can carry out the task. Question is, have we opened our eyes to that political reality? After 25 years of MDC CCC with nothing to show for it, as the penny finally dropped, and we realize MDC CCC will never bring about an end to the Zanu PF dictatorship. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.